Welcome back to Black and Blue Crime, where we peel back the layers of the most shocking events in recent history. Today, we're taking you back to a day that began with so much hope and ended in a tragedy that stunned a nation. Picture this: a bright, beautiful afternoon on the campus of Utah Valley University. The sun is out, the sky is a perfect blue, and the air is electric with anticipation. Thousands of students and supporters have gathered on the campus quad. It's the kind of day that feels like a fresh start, the kind of day that promises change. On a stage in the middle of it all stands a man who has become the face of a movement. Charlie Kirk, conservative activist, is on his American comeback tour. The crowd, a massive sea of faces, is hanging on his every word. A powerful, unified energy fills the air. No one could have predicted that this perfect moment, this illusion of safety, was about to be shattered. The world was about to change forever with a single sound. A sound that would echo not just across the campus, but across an entire country. The crowd hung on his every word. Then, it happened. A single, sharp crack of a rifle shot echoed across the quad. The sound was so out of place, so alien to the peaceful scene, that for a split second, it didn't register. The human mind struggles to comprehend a sound like that in a place like this. It's a sound that belongs on a battlefield. Not a college campus, but Charlie Kirk's body reacted before the crowd's minds could. His body lurched violently as he was struck. A dark red stain instantly bloomed on his neck, spreading like a gruesome flower on his collar. A collective gasp, a wave of sound, a primal exhalation of shock and horror swept through the crowd. The joyous energy that had filled the quad a moment before evaporated, replaced by a cold, stomach-churning terror. No one screamed yet, but the silence after the shot was heavier, more terrifying than any noise. The crowd stood frozen, watching the unthinkable unfold. The silence was brief, a moment of disbelief before the chaos erupted. The collective gasp turned into screams as the reality of what had happened finally registered. Video footage from the scene, so graphic and terrifying, it was never released to the public, captured the horrifying moment. It showed Kirk's body, struck by the bullet, falling from his chair. The crimson stain on his neck was a chilling testament to the violence. The crowd, a massive, unified body of people just moments before, became a panicked stampede, a terrified mob running for their lives. The fear was contagious, spreading like a virus through the thousands of people who had come to hear a message of hope. They ran without direction, without a clear destination, simply away from the source of the terror. The joyous rally had become a crime scene, a scene of absolute terror and utter confusion. People fell, people were trampled, and the once orderly crowd dissolved into a desperate every-man-for-himself scramble for safety. As news of the shooting spread, a stunned nation held its breath. The initial reports were a jumble of unconfirmed details: a shooting, a political figure, a campus in lockdown. Social media exploded with rumors and raw footage from the scene. Everyone was waiting for an official update on Kirk's condition. The silence, a heavy, national hush, was finally broken by a somber and definitive message from the highest office. It didn't come from a press briefing or a formal statement. It came from Truth Social, President Donald Trump's own platform. The digital space that had been Kirk's battleground became the place of his eulogy. This message was short, but it delivered the most feared news. The words were a confirmation of the worst, a declaration that shook the political world to its core. The post from President Trump was a personal and public tribute, a eulogy delivered in a few concise sentences. "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead," the post read. He spoke of Kirk's unique ability to connect with the youth of America. He mentioned Kirk's unwavering support for the MAGA movement and the love and admiration he had for him. "Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife Erica and family." The post concluded, "Charlie, we love you." The message was more than just a confirmation of a death. It was a powerful statement of loss from a national leader. The passing of a young, influential figure was not just a tragic event, it was an assassination that promised to have far-reaching political and social consequences. The gravity of the situation was instantly clear. A figure of national importance had been taken, and the repercussions would be felt far beyond the Utah Valley campus. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, misinformation and confusion reigned. An initial campus alert had claimed a suspect was in custody, and social media was quickly flooded with videos of an older man being detained by police. For a brief moment, it seemed the crisis was over. A collective sigh of relief could almost be felt across the country. But that relief was short-lived. Law enforcement soon confirmed that the man in the video was not the shooter. He was just a confused individual caught up in the panic. The real assassin was still at large, a phantom in the chaotic crowd. A chilling new detail was revealed by a school spokesperson. The single shot had been fired from a building on campus, some 200 yards away from where Kirk was speaking. This wasn't a random act of violence. It was a planned, precise attack. This chilling detail changed everything. The shooter was no random opportunist. He was a trained sniper, someone who had planned this attack with cold precision. The single shot, from a distance of 200 yards, was the mark of a professional. As police and first responders scrambled to secure the area, a massive manhunt began. They were searching for a needle in a haystack, a single dangerous individual who had just committed a high-profile assassination and vanished into thin air. The chaos of the crowd had been the perfect cover. The thousands of people running for their lives had inadvertently created a diversion, a perfect storm for the killer to make his escape. The search for the phantom gunman was on, and the clock was ticking. Every moment that passed, the assassin was getting further away. Could they find him before he disappeared for good? While the manhunt for the shooter was underway, the human toll of the attack was becoming clear. The crowd, once a unified body of supporters, was now a traumatized mass of individuals seeking safety. The news reports focused on the public figures, but the real story was in the personal, raw fear of the attendees. One of our own employees received a frantic text message from a family member who was at the rally. The simple, terrified message read, "I'm okay. I'm hiding right now. I love you." These words painted a more intimate, terrifying picture of the event. It wasn't just a news story. It was a life-altering event for thousands of people. For those hiding, the world had shrunk to the four walls of their temporary shelter. They were no longer just rally-goers. They were witnesses, survivors of a political assassination. In the wake of the assassination, retired FBI agent Colin Schmidt provided some insight into the complex law enforcement response. He explained that an event of this magnitude would bring out a host of different agencies, local police, state troopers, and the FBI. The immediate priority was organization. The first step was to establish a central command post to coordinate their efforts. This was a critical step to avoid a chaotic and disorganized response. Investigators would fan out, interviewing witnesses and collecting evidence. The biggest question was whether this was the work of a lone wolf or a wider conspiracy. The initial reports were still unconfirmed, and the focus remained on a logical, thorough investigation. But Schmidt detailed a critical next step: the interrogation of the suspect, should they be found. Colin Schmidt emphasized the need for law enforcement to be careful. The goal was to get a confession and crucial information, such as whether the shooter acted alone, without giving them the chance to lawyer up. The first few moments were crucial. Officers would need to get the suspect into a car or a secure location and start talking immediately. They would, of course, have to read the suspect their Miranda rights. But the time between apprehension and the formal reading was the most valuable. This was a delicate dance, a race against the clock to find out if there were other conspirators, other threats, before the suspect shut down. This would be a high-stakes moment, a battle of wits that could determine the future of the entire investigation. The sheer volume of people at the rally presented a unique challenge. Schmidt discussed the difficult task of managing the crowd. The immediate priority was to ensure there was no further chaos. More officers would be called in for crowd control, and then they would begin the slow, arduous process of interviewing witnesses. Given the partisan nature of the event, Schmidt believed people would be eager to cooperate, eager to help find the person who had shattered their peaceful gathering. Law enforcement would also rely on the digital breadcrumbs left behind by the thousands of witnesses. The videos, images, and witness accounts circulating on social media would be crucial in piecing together a timeline of the event. The digital world was as important as the physical one in this investigation. Every photo, every video, was a potential clue. The details of the crime, a single shot from 200 yards away, raised serious questions about security at political events. Kirk, as a political activist, did not have the same level of federal protection as an elected official. His security was likely handled by his private team and local law enforcement. Schmidt explained that police in the area would have been briefed on the event, but they lacked the resources to do the same level of security screening as the Secret Service. It was impossible to use metal detectors or secure a full perimeter for an outdoor rally of this size. Schmidt pointed to the growing trend of political violence. He cited attacks on figures like Gabby Giffords and the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. He suggested that if political events were to be held safely, they would need to move indoors to venues with proper security. With the FBI's involvement, the potential for federal charges became a key aspect of the investigation. Schmidt explained that a politically motivated attack like this could be considered a civil rights violation, even though Kirk was not a federal employee. The federal government would likely throw the book at the suspect, charging him not only with murder, but also with a hate crime based on Kirk's political views. Schmidt stated that this man, if convicted, would likely never see the light of day. The state of Utah would also pursue its own charges, ensuring that justice would be served on multiple fronts. The combined weight of state and federal law would be brought down on the individual responsible for this horrific act. The legal battle would be just as intense as the manhunt. Then, a new development. Breaking news, new video. The news conference was live, and what they showed was stunning. The first video showed the moment that law enforcement say the shooter who killed Charlie Kirk got away. It was a single, harrowing clip that revealed the perpetrator's escape. They also had new images from the FBI of the shooter, enhanced to show distinctive features on his clothing, like a shirt with an American flag and an eagle on it. Law enforcement was now revealing exactly where the shooter left critical pieces of evidence, as the manhunt continued into a second night. This was a breaking news edition of On the Case, and the new information was explosive. This was the moment the public became part of the investigation. The race against time was getting a new burst of speed. The authorities were continuing to search for the shooter who killed Charlie Kirk earlier this week at a political event at a college near Salt Lake City. The 31-year-old conservative influencer was shot in the neck and appeared to have bled out very quickly on stage. The video that was circulating on social media was just too graphic to show. Kirk was then rushed to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. And now, for the first time, a new piece of information. A video showing the moment the gunman escaped, jumping off of a campus building. This was the same building that law enforcement say this shooter fired from, about 200 yards away. The enhanced pictures released by the FBI were new tonight. They showed the shooter on campus at Utah Valley University. Law enforcement was very clear. They wanted the public to see these and recognize the distinctive features on them. The focus had shifted from a generic description to a specific set of identifying features. The shirt with the American flag on it with an eagle, a baseball cap with a triangle logo on it, and Converse shoes with white soles. These were now the most important clues in the investigation. The authorities believed these details would be the key to unlocking the identity of the killer. Charlie Kirk, just 31 years old, rose to fame as a voice for young conservatives. He was very active on social media and was at Utah Valley University for his nonprofit, Turning Point USA. He was on a tour of college campuses holding these political events. He was known for debating anyone who wanted to have a conversation with him, and was in the Q&A portion of this event when he was hit in the neck. Law enforcement said they tracked this shooter from not only just the escape, but also the moment that the shooter arrived on campus before Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. They believed that the shooter arrived just before noon and that the single shot was fired about a half hour later. At the press conference, the head of Utah's Department of Public Safety, Bo Mason, walked through the new video. He pointed to the building where the shooter was proned out in the top left corner of the video. The video showed the suspect running behind the upper building, then climbing off the edge and dropping down to the ground. As he did that, he left some critical evidence behind. Mason mentioned palm impressions and smudges where they were looking to collect DNA. There was also a shoe imprint that clearly identified the suspect as wearing Converse tennis shoes. The black t-shirt, black pants, and white soles were all identifiable items that would help in the manhunt. Mason went on to say that the enhanced still photographs were a critical tool in the investigation. He again pointed out the very distinctive t-shirt with the American flag and the eagle, the hat with the triangle, and the sunglasses. The suspect was also wearing a backpack, all identifying features that they were hoping the public could help them with. He also added that they believed they had the gun that was used in the attack, a bolt-action rifle, a high-powered rifle left in the wooded area the shooter escaped to after jumping off the building. The gun was with the FBI's crime lab, and they were trying to pull information off of it. The governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, made a powerful statement at the press conference. He made it clear that if and when this shooter is taken into custody, that the death penalty would be the punishment. More than anything, we are going to catch this person, he said. He also said that the thousands of tips that the FBI had received in a little more than 24 hours since Kirk was killed was the largest volume it had received for a single event since the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013. The FBI was offering a reward of up to $100,000 for information that would help bring the shooter to justice. It was a race against time, with the public's help now a crucial part of the investigation. The net was closing in, and the world was holding its breath. The silence was deafening. The air was thick with the weight of an entire nation holding its breath. For the last 33 hours, a terrible question had hung over the state of Utah. Who would assassinate a public figure in broad daylight, and would they be brought to justice? Then, on the morning of September 12th, the question was answered with 3 simple words: we got him. Standing before a bank of cameras, a coalition of local police, state troopers, and federal agents announced a historic victory. The suspect, a man named Tyler Robinson, had been apprehended in record time, but the story of how they caught him is more unbelievable than you can imagine. This was not a case solved by chance or luck. It was a case solved by a remarkable collaboration between law enforcement and the public, where a single, whispered confession set off a chain reaction that would lead to an arrest in less than 2 days. It began with an extraordinary tip, the kind of information that every investigator dreams of, but it led to a terrifying discovery that spoke to a deeper, more disturbing truth about a crime fueled by political rage. Get ready for the full story. The truth behind the engraved bullets and the chilling messages that brought down a killer. The hunt for the assassin was a desperate race against the clock. The entire country watched as police searched for any clue that could lead them to the person responsible for this heinous act. But the break in the case didn't come from a high-tech surveillance operation or a massive data dump. It came from a family member who chose to do the right thing, even when it was the hardest thing to do. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a trusted family friend. In a moment of either fear or remorse, Robinson had confessed his involvement to them, or at the very least, strongly implied that he had committed the crime. The gravity of the information was instantly clear. The friend knew they had to act, and they immediately contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office, putting the most critical piece of the puzzle into the hands of investigators. This single act of courage from a civilian was the key that unlocked the entire case. The trail of evidence led to an unlikely source, a Discord chat log. Investigators identified an individual who was Robinson's roommate and asked if they could see his Discord messages. Hesitantly, the roommate agreed, revealing a series of chilling messages that confirmed Robinson's actions and provided a terrifying glimpse into his state of mind. The roommate showed investigators various conversations, and they were allowed to photograph each message on the screen. The content was damning. Messages from a contact named Tyler, with an emoji icon, were clearly related to the crime. They mentioned a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, and even the rifle being wrapped in a towel. But it was the inscription on a fired casing that was perhaps the most bizarre and disturbing evidence of all. The messages on Discord had spoken of engraved bullets, and now, investigators had the evidence to prove it. The inscriptions on the casings revealed a level of personal rage that went beyond a simple crime and transformed it into a twisted act of political statement. A single fired casing read, "Notices, bulges, capital, oh whoa, what's this question mark?" A second unfired casing was marked with the words, "Oella, ciao, bella, ciao, bella, ciao, ciao, ciao." And a third unfired casing carried a shocking, insulting message. "If you read this, you are gay. LMAO." These messages, scrawled on the very instruments of violence, served as a final, chilling insight into the mind of the man who had committed this crime. With the overwhelming evidence in hand, the authorities moved swiftly. On the night of September 11th, at 10 p.m. local time, Tyler Robinson was taken into custody in Washington County. In a stunning display of cooperation, his family and a friend helped deliver him to law enforcement. The arrest was historic. In just over 33 hours, the full weight of the federal government, along with state and local partners, had successfully apprehended a suspect in a high-profile assassination. This case was a masterclass in modern law enforcement. The public, the media, and a unified front of police had delivered justice in record time. While the capture of the suspect was a victory for law enforcement, the governor of Utah used the press conference to deliver a much larger message to the nation. He acknowledged that the assassination was a tragedy, but stated that it was also much more than an attack on a single individual. It was an attack on the American experiment and on the very ideals of freedom of expression. He made a powerful distinction between speech and violence, stating, "Words are not violence. Violence is violence." He said that political violence is different from any other type of violence because it makes people afraid to speak freely and to have a safe clash of ideas. By taking a life in an act of expression, the killer had tried to make it more difficult for all of us to share our ideas. But the governor made it clear that this was not a moment for retaliation. He praised the people of Utah for their peaceful response, noting that there was no rioting or looting, only vigils and prayers. It was a call to find an off-ramp from the rage that has consumed modern politics. In the midst of the anger and sorrow, the governor found solace and guidance in the words of the victim himself. He shared some of Charlie Kirk's own quotes, highlighting the principles he lived by. "When people stop talking," Kirk had said, "that's when you get violence." He also spoke about forgiveness, reminding everyone that the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. These words, spoken by a man who had lost his life for his beliefs, took on a powerful, haunting new meaning. He had preached the importance of human connection and the need to engage with those you disagree with. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence, he had said. The governor used these words as a message to young people. urging them to choose a different path than the one paved with rage. The victim's legacy, it seemed, was not just about the ideas he championed, but about the very way he believed those ideas should be discussed. As the press conference drew to a close, a final, lingering question remained. Would this tragedy be a watershed moment in American history? The governor posed the question directly to the public. Is this the end of a dark chapter, or the beginning of a darker chapter? He emphasized that the choice was not for history to decide, but for every individual to make right now. He spoke about the power of hope over optimism. Optimism, he said, is the belief that good things will just happen, but hope is the belief that good things will happen because we can make them so. This was a direct challenge to a nation consumed by division, a call to turn off the phones, step away from the digital fury, and engage with each other as human beings. It was a powerful plea for unity, and for every American to choose a different path.